Your presence is more than just your body in a room. It is the weight of your energy, the vibration of your spirit, the invisible aura that shapes how people feel when they are around you. Many do not realize that their presence is a force, one that can either elevate or diminish the space they enter. When you begin to understand this, you stop chasing people, you stop explaining yourself to those who refuse to listen, and you stop shrinking to fit into places that cannot hold your light. Presence is not about how loud you are. It is not about demanding attention with words, gestures, or force. Presence is about a quiet certainty in who you are. It is the knowledge that you do not need to be validated in order to be valuable. Like a mountain that stands unmoved by the wind, your presence is rooted in something deeper than approval. It comes from knowing your worth without anyone having to remind you of it. People can sense it. They may not understand why, but they will feel the shift when you walk into a space fully aware of your own value. Some will be drawn to it, wanting to be close to the warmth of your confidence. Others may be unsettled by it because it forces them to confront the places where they feel small. This is the nature of presence. It amplifies what is already there in others. When you don't know your power, you give it away without realizing it. You stay too long in conversations that drain you. You say yes when you mean no, just to keep the peace. You tolerate disrespect because you think walking away means losing something. But when you understand your presence, you realize you are the one who brings value into the connection. You are the one who inspires, uplifts, or brings calm. Without you, the space is quieter, dimmer, less alive. Your presence is not something you have to perform. It is not a mask you wear or a role you play. It is cultivated from the inside out. It comes from living in alignment with your values, speaking only when your words carry weight, and refusing to be pulled into the chaos of others. You become magnetic not because you try to be, but because you are grounded in truth. Think of the sun. It does not chase after the planets. It simply shines and the planets revolve around it. This is the same with presence. You do not have to go after what is meant for you. You become a center of gravity, and those who are aligned with your energy will stay in your orbit naturally. Those who cannot handle your light will drift away, and that is not your loss. It is the natural order of things. When you know your presence is your power, you stop explaining your absence. You stop overcompensating for people who take you for granted. Instead, you move with grace, knowing that your energy is not something to be wasted. You give it to those who appreciate it, and you protect it from those who only seek to take without giving back. Presence can heal. The right presence can calm a storm in another person's mind without a single word. But presence can also create awareness through absence. When you remove your energy from a person's life, they will feel the difference. They will notice the silence where your laughter once was, the emptiness where your encouragement once filled them. They will begin to realize that what they thought was ordinary was, in fact, rare. You must remember, the more you understand your own power, the less you will tolerate environments that dull it. You will walk away not in anger, but in peace, because you know that your presence is not replaceable. You will carry yourself like a queen who does not beg to be treated like one. The crown is not on your head because someone gave it to you. It is there because you were born with it. Your presence is felt most when you no longer seek to prove it. When you can sit in a room and be entirely at ease with your silence, you have reached a level of strength many never find. Silence is not weakness. It is the mark of someone who knows they do not have to fill every space with noise to be seen. When you realize that your presence is your power, you become intentional with where you place it. You no longer go everywhere you are invited. You no longer speak just to be heard. You no longer show up for those who do not value the time, energy, and peace you bring. Instead, you choose carefully, understanding that the most valuable gift you can offer is yourself. Your presence is a mirror. It reflects the energy you carry within, and others will respond to it based on their own capacity. Some will feel inspired to rise to your level. Others will try to dim you so they do not have to confront their own shadows. But either way, your task is not to shrink. It is to remain in your full height, like a tree that grows without apology. You cannot buy presence. You cannot fake it for long. It is built over time through self-respect, self-awareness, and self-mastery. It is in the way you walk, the way you hold your gaze, the way you breathe in a moment without rushing. It is the way you can say no without fear and yes without hesitation when it aligns with your truth. When you know this, you stop chasing after people to make them stay. You stop fighting for spaces that are not worthy of your energy. You stop lowering your standards to be accepted, because you understand that the most powerful thing you can do is stand in the fullness of who you are and let the world adjust to your frequency. It is not arrogance, it is awareness. It is not distance, it is discipline. It is not about being cold, it is about being selective with where your warmth goes. When you learn this, you carry yourself differently. You move with an energy that says, I know who I am, and I will not apologize for it. When you begin to live this way, you will see the shift. People will treat you differently. Opportunities will present themselves without you having to chase. The wrong ones will fall away naturally, and the right ones will hold on tighter. All of this happens not because you demanded it, but because your presence commanded it. Silence is often misunderstood. People see it as emptiness, as a lack of action, as the absence of a voice. But silence is not the absence of power. It is the purest form of it. Words can be twisted, misinterpreted, or forgotten. Silence, however, is undeniable. It is felt, not just heard. When you understand how to use silence, you realize it can express more than any speech, any argument, any long explanation ever could. In silence, there is clarity. When you choose not to respond immediately, you create space for truth to reveal itself. In that space, people are forced to sit with their own thoughts, to hear the echo of their own actions. This is why silence can be uncomfortable for those who are used to control, because it removes the noise they hide behind. Without your words to distract them, they are left with only their conscience. When you stop speaking, you stop giving away your energy through explanations and defenses. You no longer hand out pieces of yourself to prove your worth or to make someone understand. You allow your actions, your absence, and your boundaries to speak in your place. This kind of silence does not come from fear, it comes from mastery. It is a deliberate choice, a sign that you no longer need to be understood to remain at peace. Silence has weight. Imagine standing in a room where someone has just spoken hurtful words, and instead of responding with anger, you look at them, steady and unshaken, and say nothing. That moment will echo louder than any insult you could have thrown back. The silence will sit in the air, pressing on them, forcing them to face the magnitude of their own actions. They will remember that silence because it reflects their own behavior back at them. In relationships, silence can be more powerful than constant communication. Not every disagreement needs to be followed by a flood of messages or explanations. Sometimes the most effective thing you can do is to step back and allow distance to speak for you. When you remove your voice, your presence, your energy, the other person has the opportunity to feel the difference. They begin to notice the void where your attention once was. They start to realize that your presence was not just noise, it was stability, warmth, and meaning. Silence also protects your dignity. In moments of conflict, when emotions are high and tempers are quick, speaking too soon can damage more than it heals. Words spoken in anger often become regrets. But silence holds your composure. It allows you to choose when and how to engage. It keeps you from lowering yourself into the chaos of the moment. Instead of reacting instantly, you preserve your energy and your self-respect. The most disciplined form of silence is when you withhold it not out of avoidance, but out of strength. You do not go silent because you have nothing to say, but because you know that saying it would serve no purpose. You recognize that some people do not need more words. They need the experience of not having you available. That is a language they will understand more deeply than any explanation. Silence can end arguments without ever raising a voice. It can calm storms without ever confronting them head-on. It can create space for reflection in ways that words cannot. When you walk away without a scene, when you choose to hold your tongue, instead of engaging in endless debates, you communicate something powerful. You are not available for battles that do not grow you. Even in the presence of manipulation, silence is a shield. Those who seek to provoke you rely on your reaction. They feed on the energy you give when you defend yourself, when you try to prove them wrong. Silence denies them that fuel. It disrupts their game. It forces them to sit with their own discomfort because they cannot pull you into it. The art of silence also teaches patience. It teaches you to wait and watch rather than rush to act. In stillness, you learn to see beyond the surface. You begin to notice patterns, intentions, and truths that are hidden beneath words. This awareness allows you to act with precision instead of impulse. When you finally do speak, your words carry weight because they are rare, deliberate, and measured. Silence is not weakness. Weakness is when you speak out of insecurity, when you rush to fill the air because you cannot sit with discomfort. Strength is when you can remain still, when you can let the noise pass over you without feeling the need to match it. True confidence is quiet, not because it has nothing to say, but because it knows that speaking is optional, not necessary. Silence can be an act of self-love. It is the choice to protect your energy from unnecessary drama. It is the decision to let people reveal themselves without your interference. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, you do not need to argue with them about it. You simply believe them and remove your presence from their reach. When you practice silence, you will notice that not everyone can handle it. Some will try harder to get your attention, to pull words out of you. They may grow frustrated or desperate. But this only proves the strength of silence. It makes people feel something they cannot easily ignore. It creates a space where they are left alone with their own thoughts. And in that solitude, they often realize what they took for granted. Silence also deepens your connection with yourself. Without constant noise, you begin to hear your own voice more clearly. You discover that your intuition has been speaking to you all along, but the world's chatter drowned it out. In quiet moments, your thoughts settle, and you begin to understand what truly matters to you. You see that not everything deserves your reaction, not everyone deserves your explanation, and not every situation requires your involvement. By mastering silence, you master presence. You begin to show up differently, calmer, more grounded, more intentional. People notice this shift even if they cannot name it. They sense that you are not easily swayed, not easily provoked, and not easily controlled. Your silence becomes a statement, a living proof that you operate on your own terms. Self-respect is the foundation of every decision you make, while attachment often becomes the chain that keeps you bound to what no longer serves you. Many people confuse love with attachment, thinking that holding on at all costs is a sign of loyalty. But there is a vast difference between genuine connection and unhealthy attachment. One uplifts you, the other diminishes you. One is built on mutual respect, the other is fueled by fear. The fear of being alone, the fear of loss, the fear of change. When you choose self-respect over attachment, you begin to see relationships differently. You stop asking, how can I keep this person in my life? And start asking, is this relationship worthy of the person I am becoming? That shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of clinging to someone who treats you poorly, you start to recognize that walking away is not weakness. It is strength. It is the act of honoring yourself enough to refuse what is beneath you. Attachment thrives on dependency. It convinces you that you need the other person in order to be whole, that without them, you will lose your identity. It makes you settle for less than you deserve because you fear the emptiness that might follow if they are gone. But emptiness is not the enemy, it is space. Space for growth, space for peace, space for something better to come in. Self-respect understands this. Self-respect would rather face temporary loneliness than stay in a place where you are undervalued. Choosing self-respect means setting boundaries that protect your energy, even when those boundaries upset others. It means refusing to accept half love, conditional loyalty, or attention that comes only when it's convenient for them. You stop being available to those who treat you as an option. You stop bending your values to fit into someone else's comfort. You start living by your own standards, knowing that those who truly respect you will rise to meet them. Attachment often blinds you to reality. It makes you remember only the good moments, the promises, the moments of connection, while ignoring the patterns of neglect, disrespect, or emotional harm. Self-respect removes that filter. It allows you to see clearly, to acknowledge when someone's words and actions no longer align, to recognize when you are giving more than you are receiving, to understand when your presence is being taken for granted. When you prioritize self-respect, you realize that your worth is not negotiable. You no longer stay silent about what hurts you just to keep the peace. You no longer tolerate behavior that makes you doubt your own value. You understand that the love you give to others must never come at the cost of the love you owe yourself. There is a kind of power that comes when you let go of something you were once deeply attached to. At first, it feels like loss. The mind searches for the familiar, the sound of their voice, the comfort of their presence, the daily patterns you shared. But as time passes, you begin to see the truth. What you let go of was not love, it was a version of yourself that accepted less than you deserved. The more you stand in self-respect, the more you realize you have gained something greater than what you lost. You have gained yourself. Attachment often makes you compromise in ways that damage you. You give more than you have, you accept less than you need, and you hope that if you just love harder, the other person will change. But love is not meant to be a rescue mission. You cannot save someone by sacrificing yourself. Self-respect understands that love must be mutual, that both people must contribute equally to the foundation you are building. Without that balance, the structure will always collapse. Self-respect teaches patience. It teaches you not to settle for the first hand extended to you simply because you fear no other will come. It teaches you to wait for the connection that meets you where you are, that values you without conditions, that respects your boundaries without testing them. Attachment rushes, fears, and clings. Self-respect waits, trusts, and walks away when necessary. The most difficult part of choosing self-respect over attachment is breaking the cycle. Human beings are creatures of habit, and the longer you have been attached to someone, the harder it is to imagine life without them. But once you take the first step, once you remove yourself from what is harming you, you will begin to see how much lighter you feel. The constant anxiety, the second guessing, the emotional exhaustion, they begin to fade. In their place comes peace, clarity, and the quiet confidence that you are exactly where you are supposed to be. Choosing self-respect does not mean you stop loving. It means you start loving in a way that does not destroy you. You can still care deeply for someone and decide they cannot remain in your life. You can still appreciate what you shared without letting it chain you to a future that drains you. Love becomes healthier when it is filtered through self-respect, because then you can give it freely without fear of losing yourself in the process. Attachment asks, how can I hold on? Self-respect asks, how can I grow? Attachment is afraid to lose what is known. Self-respect is willing to release what is harmful to create space for what is better. The more you practice choosing yourself, the more natural it becomes. You stop chasing after people who do not choose you. You stop explaining your worth to those who are blind to it. You stop holding on to relationships that have already shown you they cannot meet your needs. Self-respect is not about being cold or distant. It is about knowing when enough is enough. It is about recognizing that your time, energy, and presence are valuable and must not be squandered on those who fail to honor them. It is about living with the awareness that you deserve to be treated with the same care, love, and effort that you give so freely to others. When you live this way, you notice that the quality of your connections changes. You attract people who match your energy, who see your value without you having to prove it, who meet you in the middle instead of making you carry the weight alone. And you are no longer afraid to let go of anyone who does not. Energy is not limitless. Every interaction you have, every conversation, every moment spent with another person is an exchange of energy. Some exchanges leave you feeling lighter, inspired, and at peace. Others leave you drained, restless, or questioning yourself. Most people give away their energy without thinking, constantly pouring into relationships, situations, and people who do not pour back. But when you understand the value of your energy, you realize that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back and withdraw it entirely. Energy withdrawal is not punishment. It is not about revenge or teaching someone a lesson through manipulation. It is a conscious act of self-preservation. It is recognizing that your energy is a resource that must be protected, and when it is being misused, disrespected, or taken for granted, the healthiest choice is to stop feeding it into that space. By removing your presence, your time, and your emotional investment, you create a vacuum, a silence in which reflection naturally happens. People become accustomed to the energy you give them. If you are always available to listen, to comfort, to encourage, they begin to see it as a constant, something that will always be there regardless of how they treat it. They may not even realize the depth of what you bring until it is gone. When you withdraw your energy, you remove the invisible support that was holding them up, and suddenly they feel the difference. This absence forces them to confront the truth. What they thought was ordinary was extraordinary, and what they took for granted was rare. Reflection thrives in the space you create when you step back. As long as you keep giving, they have no reason to think about what they are taking. As long as you keep showing up, they have no reason to value your presence. It is only in the emptiness, in the quiet, that they start to notice the weight you carried. They begin to see that the comfort they felt was not accidental. It was the direct result of your consistent energy, your patience, your care. Energy withdrawal also protects you from becoming resentful. When you continue to pour into someone who does not reciprocate, bitterness begins to grow. You start to feel unappreciated, used, or invisible. But when you consciously choose to pull back, you take back control of where your energy goes. You stop feeding cycles that harm you, and you redirect your energy toward yourself, your growth, your peace, your healing. It is important to understand that not everyone will reflect when you withdraw. Some will simply move on, looking for someone else to provide what you once did. But even that is a form of clarity. It shows you exactly where you stood in their life, not as a person to be cherished, but as a convenience. This knowledge, while painful, frees you. It prevents you from pouring any more of yourself into a connection that was never built on mutual respect. When you withdraw your energy, it is not about slamming doors or creating dramatic exits. True power lies in quiet removal. You don't announce it. You don't explain it repeatedly. You simply stop feeding the connection with your constant availability. This subtle shift speaks volumes. It communicates that you value your energy too much to waste it where it is not honored. Energy withdrawal can also lead to self-reflection. In the absence of constant giving, you begin to ask yourself important questions. Why was I pouring so much into this? Was it truly about love and connection, or was it about needing to be needed? Did I ignore my own needs to meet theirs? Was I hoping that my effort would eventually earn me the treatment I deserved? These questions are not easy to face, but they are essential for growth. In many ways, withdrawing your energy is a test for both you and the other person. For you, it is a test of self-discipline, a chance to see if you can resist the urge to overextend yourself. For them, it is a test of appreciation, a moment to see if they will notice your absence and take steps to restore the balance. In healthy connections, this space often leads to reconnection on better terms. In unhealthy ones, it reveals the truth you may have been avoiding. Energy is the most valuable currency you have. You can give someone money, gifts, or opportunities, but none of it compares to the energy you invest. The attention you give, the emotional presence you maintain, the care you extend. Once given, it cannot be reclaimed in the same form. This is why withdrawing it is so powerful. It makes both you and the other person realize that it was never guaranteed, that it was a choice you made every day, and that choice can change. People remember the way you made them feel long after your words fade. They may not recall every conversation, but they will remember the comfort, the safety, the motivation you brought into their life. When that is gone, it leaves a void they cannot easily fill. This is why energy withdrawal creates such a strong opportunity for reflection. It is not about what they hear, it is about what they feel when you are no longer there. In relationships, friendships, and even work environments, energy withdrawal often shifts dynamics in ways that words cannot. You can tell someone 100 times that you feel unappreciated, and they may nod and agree without changing anything. But when you stop giving them the version of you they are used to, the one who always shows up, always says yes, always goes the extra mile, they are forced to confront the impact of their own behavior. Withdrawing your energy is also a way of showing yourself that you are not dependent on anyone's validation. It proves to you that your value does not decrease just because you are no longer in constant contact. It allows you to experience the peace that comes from not overextending yourself, from not being emotionally tethered to someone else's recognition. This act is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the realization that your energy is a gift, and not everyone deserves unlimited access to it. It is the understanding that love, respect, and care should be mutual exchanges, not one-sided investments. And sometimes, the only way to restore that balance is to step back and allow the silence, the absence, and the emptiness to do the talking for you. Goodbyes are often imagined as loud, final, and filled with sharp edges. People expect them to be marked by raised voices, heavy accusations, or a desperate attempt to hold on. But there is another way. A way that carries more strength than shouting and more dignity than pleading. That way is grace. Grace in goodbye is not about pretending you do not care. It is about caring enough for yourself to leave with composure, without burning bridges you may one day have to cross, and without leaving behind pieces of yourself in the process. Grace in goodbye begins with acceptance. It is the understanding that not all things are meant to last forever, and not all endings are failures. Some endings are simply the natural completion of a chapter. When you can accept that, you release the need to turn the goodbye into a battle. You no longer feel compelled to prove a point or to make the other person see your side. You simply recognize that the path you once walked together has reached its divergence, and you choose to part ways with calm clarity. To leave with grace means you have already done the internal work. You have processed the emotions that once made you want to fight for what is no longer there. You have looked at the relationship honestly, seen its strengths and its flaws, and decided that holding on will cost more than letting go. This decision is not rushed, it is deliberate. And because it is deliberate, you can walk away without bitterness clinging to you. Grace in goodbye is restraint. It is choosing not to throw every hurtful truth at someone in your final moments together. It is knowing that you could say more, that you could reveal the deepest wounds they caused, but recognizing that the purpose of leaving is not to injure. It is to free yourself. Words spoken in anger may feel powerful in the moment, but they often linger as regrets. Grace knows when silence will protect your peace better than a last argument ever could. When you say goodbye with grace, you also preserve your dignity. You do not beg someone to stay when they have shown you they want to go. You do not try to convince them of your worth when they could not see it for themselves. You do not lower yourself into desperation in the hope that they will change their mind. Instead, you allow them the freedom to choose their path, even if that path leads away from you. In doing so, you give yourself the same freedom. Goodbyes without grace can leave scars, both on you and on the other person. The anger, the accusations, the final blows, they can overshadow everything that was once good. But a graceful goodbye honors the moments that mattered, even if they are in the past. It acknowledges that there were smiles before there were tears, that there was love before there was distance. By leaving with grace, you allow yourself to remember without bitterness. Grace in goodbye is also a gift to the other person, even if they never acknowledge it. It gives them space to reflect without the noise of your anger echoing in their mind. It leaves the door open, not necessarily for reconciliation, but for respect. Sometimes, years later, people will look back and remember that you left without cruelty, that you walked away with your head high, and it will change the way they see you forever. This way of leaving requires a strong sense of self. It demands that you place your peace above your pride, that you resist the urge to have the last word, that you recognize the power of walking away without turning the goodbye into a war. It asks you to be steady even when your emotions are pulling you toward chaos. Grace in goodbye also means releasing the need for closure from the other person. You may never get the apology you deserve. You may never hear them admit they were wrong. You may never know the full truth of their thoughts or choices. But you do not wait for those things to move forward. You create your own closure by deciding that the chapter is done and that your life is ready for the next one. It is a myth that a goodbye must be cold to be strong. Grace can still carry warmth. You can still wish someone well as you walk away. You can still thank them for the role they played in your life, even if their part is now over. Grace is the balance between holding on to yourself, respect, and releasing the other person without resentment. To say goodbye with grace is to understand timing. There comes a moment when staying becomes more painful than leaving, when the weight of the relationship presses harder than the fear of change. In that moment, grace is choosing not to drag the ending out, not to linger in hope that things will magically return to what they were. It is trusting that life after goodbye can still hold beauty, even if it is unfamiliar at first. Grace in goodbye is not only for romantic relationships. It applies to friendships, work environments, family ties, and any connection that no longer aligns with your well-being. Sometimes it means stepping back quietly from people you once loved deeply. Sometimes it means walking away from opportunities that no longer serve you without bitterness toward the people who remain. Grace does not discriminate. It can be practiced anywhere you choose to part ways with someone or something. The truest test of grace comes in the moments after the goodbye. It is easy to say you will leave with dignity, but harder to resist checking back, harder to stop explaining your choice to people who do not need to understand, harder to let silence replace the urge to reach out. Grace is discipline. It is choosing to honor the ending every day, even when loneliness tries to pull you back into what you left behind. When you master grace in goodbye, you discover that endings do not have to destroy you. They can strengthen you. They can clarify what you value, deepen your self-awareness, and teach you the difference between fighting for something and knowing when to lay it down. You learn that you do not have to leave a trail of broken words behind you for your departure to be final. Sometimes the softest exit leaves the deepest impression. Returning to someone, some place, or some situation should never be an act of desperation. When you return, it should be because you have evaluated, reflected, and decided, not because you were unable to stand on your own without it. A return that is driven by neediness or fear will strip you of self-respect. But a return made from strength, from clarity, and from freedom will always carry a different weight. It will be a decision, not a surrender. When you leave something behind, whether it is a relationship, a friendship, a job, or an environment, you do so for a reason. At the moment of your departure, something within you recognizes that your well-being required distance. That recognition should not be ignored later simply because loneliness sets in or memories pull at your emotions. The space you created after walking away is sacred. It gives you the chance to see things without the influence of constant contact, without the noise of routine, without the pressure of shared expectations. A plea is born from lack. It carries the energy of someone who believes they cannot survive without the other person's presence or the comfort of what they left. It is a posture of kneeling when you should be standing tall. Pleading for a return puts the power entirely in the other's hands, giving them the role of gatekeeper over your happiness. But choice is different. Choice says, I am whole without this, but I see enough value in it to step back into it. Choice is a position of strength because it comes from self-sufficiency, not dependency. When you return as a choice, you bring a new version of yourself. The space apart has allowed you to grow, to heal, to observe. You are no longer the person who left in pain, confusion, or exhaustion. You are someone who knows their worth and understands their boundaries. You are capable of seeing the situation clearly, both the good it offers and the challenges it holds, and deciding with full awareness whether it is worth your time and energy again. This is why returning as a choice requires deep self-reflection. You must ask yourself, has anything truly changed? Is the environment healthier now than it was before? Have the patterns that pushed me away been addressed, or am I simply hoping they will disappear? Do I trust this situation enough to give it another chance, or am I being pulled back by nostalgia and comfort? These questions are not easy to answer honestly, but they are essential if you want to return with strength instead of weakness. A plea, by contrast, ignores these questions. It focuses only on immediate relief. It is driven by the desire to fill a void as quickly as possible, even if it means stepping back into the very conditions that created the void in the first place. A plea often leads to the same pain repeating itself because it does not allow time for genuine change to take root. In many cases, when you return out of desperation, you find that nothing is different, except now you have given away even more of your power. To return as a choice is to hold your own pace. You are not rushing. You are not afraid of what will happen if you take more time to decide. You know that your life will continue and it will be full whether you return or not. That calm assurance allows you to evaluate without the pressure of fear. You are not coming back because you feel incomplete. You are coming back because, after reflection, you see a mutual benefit in reuniting. Sometimes when you make the decision to return as a choice, you will find that the door is no longer open. And even then, you remain grounded because your sense of worth was never tied to the outcome. You can walk away again with the same dignity you had when you first left. You understand that the value of your decision lies in the fact that it was yours to make, not theirs to grant. When you do return by choice, the dynamic shifts. You are not the same person who left. You carry new boundaries, new standards, and a deeper understanding of what you will and will not accept. The other person or environment can sense this. They realize you are not there out of dependence. You are there because you see a possibility worth investing in again. That awareness often changes the way they treat you because they know you have already proven you can leave. Returning as a choice also sets a precedent for the future. It shows that you do not move based on impulse or emotion alone. You move with intention. It communicates to others that you cannot be swayed by guilt, pressure, or the fear of losing something. If you are there, it is because you decided it was right for you. And that decision was made with a clear mind, not a desperate heart. To reach the point where you can return as a choice, you must first be willing to endure the discomfort of staying away long enough to gain perspective. The pull to go back will be strong at times. There will be moments when the absence feels heavier than the presence once did. But these moments pass, and in their place comes a steadier clarity. You begin to see whether your life feels lighter without it, or if there is genuine space for it to enrich you again. This clarity allows you to approach the possibility of returning without blind hope. You are not imagining what you want it to be, you are looking at what it is. You are assessing whether the reality matches your needs and whether the changes in yourself and in the situation are sustainable. This level of awareness is impossible to reach if you rush back too soon. Returning only as a choice is an act of self-trust. It is a declaration that you believe in your own ability to thrive regardless of the outcome. It is knowing that you can build a full life with or without the thing you are considering returning to. And because you know this, you can engage with it in a way that is free from fear, from pressure, and from the need to prove yourself. When you return from this place of strength, you carry yourself differently. You are not asking for permission to be there. You are not apologizing for the time apart. You are not offering more than you receive just to ensure the door stays open. You walk back in with the same dignity you had when you walked out, knowing that if you ever choose to leave again, you will do so with the same composure.